The light show for me was the inspiration behind this project. When I was in London in February, I was lucky enough to be able to go and see all these phenomenal artworks from a variety of different artists, and I was blown away by the quality of the work and what it meant to me. From this, I was particularly like the artist Anthony McCall. He has created some beautiful light installations, some solid light installations, which was just mind-blowing because how can you have solid light? I tried this and basically it just became his, which I didn't want. Who I particularly like and inspired this project. He was showing at the Fruit Market Gallery through April. His light work, La Strada di Stato, which translates to the street below, was a series of lights, and they were controlled by the rising and falling tones of the voice of the man who is the technical advisor and instructor of how these lights work. And I loved that. I loved how it was controlled by this technical aspect, and this is something I wanted to really show through in my work. One of the most important things for me when I was starting off was playing about with light, and I discovered through the principle of camera obscura, where you have a hole in one end of a box and then you move it further away from lights, and I discovered that it creates this beautiful patterns when I moved my tin, which had a screen at the end, back and forward. It created these really lovely effects. When I was starting to work with imagery and trying to pull together my ideas, because I had so many ideas about what light was and what it meant to me, when I started bringing it together, somehow it just didn't work. I was using the image of static to convey my confusion of migraines, and then I was using strobe lights to disorientate, but it just didn't work. Sometimes you just need to try these things out to see how it works, and it unfortunately didn't work in this case. No, it's the strobe light. How do the lights make you feel when they're going this fast?
I don't know, I'm dizzy.
Dizzy. If I move them into your face like this, how does that make you feel?
It hurts my eyes a little bit. It's uncomfortable, it's not unbearable, but...
So you can live with it, but you wouldn't enjoy it?
No, I'm not particularly enjoying it.
If I slow it down, does that make it better or worse?
Kind of makes it worse.
Why?
It's more of a surprise.
Within the second that it goes off, you're like, oh, no, not again.
Yeah. It's a bit...
So slower, would you feel more not at ease when it's slower? What does it make you feel?
Scared.
Scared?
Yeah, like, it is quite frightening, like, random flashes of light.
If it was pointing away from you and it was slow, like this, is that better or worse, or are you more scared?
Less scared, I think it's not as intense.
If there was more than one strobe light, coming at you from different directions, would that make you more scared?
Probably.
When I was videoing one of the pieces that I had made, I used a spotlight to try and enhance it, and I realised from that you get an interference pattern when using a camera in close contact with light. Now, I didn't know at the time, but this is because the autofocus lens gets disrupted by the light patterns, and it's coherent light forms that do this. So, for instance, LED, laser, fluorescent light sources like that, and it creates these wonderful images. So I wanted to focus on this, but I didn't realise this until I'd been through my process of working with the lights. From learning about interference, I focused it in and tried putting it in mathematical forms, which worked really nicely because it gave me a template to work with. And from there, I looked at transitions, I looked at positioning, and I added in sound, which was the key quality, and I added in interference that I recorded between a phone and a speaker, that classic noise that you hear when you are on the phone next to a radio or computer. And I think this really added to my work. It almost made it annoying and horrible to listen to, but I think that just made it all the better. Once I managed to simplify my project and focus in on this interference pattern, everything started flowing much better because it just brought everything down. It brought something to a real conclusion, and it still was focusing on the light and that disorientating factor that I wanted to portray, but it was just much simpler, and it created some really beautiful images, and it just worked really well with video, just fitted really well. If I had to evaluate my project and see how it went, I would say it was slow. I could have been more productive if I had been more open in the middle of my project. But overall, I've done what I set out to do, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud of this project. Overall, with my project, I'm really happy. I've had some stumbles. I was a bit disorientated through the middle about what I was going to do. Had my heart set on creating an installation and couldn't see the reality of the fact that we just don't have enough space in the exhibition. But in the end, I'm so thrilled with what I've come up with. My video is going to be played on a flat screen television, and it's just going to be in a blank white space, just the television, which for me is the best thing. I toyed about with having a projector, which I really liked the idea of, but in reality it's a lot more difficult to have that as a projection because you don't consider the health and safety things until you're putting them up, because you can't have a video at eye height because somebody walks past and damages their eyes, and you don't think about these things until you have to, and that's why I've opted to go for the television. That